For those of you who are always complaining that my video reviews run too long, or you dislike the fact that I have really long run-on commentaries, you're finally getting your wish. This review is going to be broken down into two pieces. The first video will be detailing the individual modes and the functions thereof. And the second video, believe it or not, is going to be dedicated exclusively to my opinions and the conclusions that I've drawn as I've interacted with this toy. Yeah, the conclusion runs that long that I actually had to break it up into its own individual video. That's crazy even for me. So if you like watching my extended commentaries, make sure you check out the second video. If you don't like the commentaries, you can just finish up with this first video. Either way, I hope you enjoy it.
毎度懲りねえ奴らだ。
あいつらも俺にやらせてください。
よし、お前の持ってる大いなる力ってのを見せてみろ。はい。じゃあ行ってきます。時を超えていでよ、タイムレンジャーの大いなる力。発進ゴージュドリル。ゴージュドリル。 キャノン。
すごい。
次はこれだ。イデオ10レンジャーの大いなる力。ゴージュレックス。ゴージュレックス。 いでよアバレンジャーの大いなる力。シールドモード。
of ground to cover in this video review, so let's kickstart things with the Goju drill, which is the representation of the great power of the Mirai Sentai Time Ranger, who were the Super Sentai series in the year 2000! In the year 2000! Sorry, I just had to do that. It's certainly more amusing than go over time and space, motherfucker. Anyways, ordinarily when Gokai Silver's boarding the Goju drill, he jumps up somewhere in here. It's kind of interesting though, because this makes for a much more convincing cockpit, and Goju Jin's head actually sits inside the torso there, but we'll get to that later. Speaking of not very convincing, I'm not convinced that these, I don't know what these things are supposed to represent. They glow in the show. It's unfortunate they didn't give it, the tiny little ring of turquoise metallic blue paint in there. That would have been nice. But one subtle detail that I did like is the Goju cannons, which, if you looked at the toy previews from, what was it, 3 months ago now, would have been in April or May of 2011 when we got them, I totally didn't recognize that these were cannons. So that's a nice, it would have been nice to have these turned, but that's a nice subtle detail. I like that. I wish they'd painted those rocket engines in, but oh well. I'm not very convinced though that a dragon, Tyrannosaurus, whatever that is, head works very well on a flying drill tank. Not that flying drill tanks are supposed to work, after all. The drill bit, I suppose I might as well just highlight it here. And yes, it is an actual drill bit. You can see the pattern changing. You can access the drill bit in all 3 modes by pushing this button here. Careful, you'll poke an eye out. And that is a spring-powered wind-up motor in there, by the way. And when it makes that really loud click, like that, then you know it's wound up all the way. The other nice thing, though, and this is a nice safety feature, is I can keep twisting it. When it clicks loudly, that means it's fully wound up all the way, and it won't overstress if you keep turning, but it also won't break if you wind it the other direction. So that's a nice thing to have. The landing gear here, unfortunately because of how floppy this thing is, the landing gear are kind of necessary, although you can store them away and have it rest on the other 4 wheels there and there. So, I mean, you can put those away if you want to or don't want to. I really don't care. And so that is it for Goju drill. Let's see. There's a good angle right there. Goju drill. So first off, let's retract the landing gear and remove the entire drill assembly. Pull these down all the way. Remove the... Not only... It's not difficult to get out, you just gotta put some force into it. It's actually trickier to reattach that thing onto there. That's actually a bit of a pain in the ass right there. Here's something else that's a little bit on the annoying side, is that there's actually 2 of these mounting points you have to deal with. You see how this connection joint actually sticks above this line here? This one actually points at a slightly different angle and is flat with it. So in order to make Goju Rex and flip over Goju Jin's head, you have to have the nub that's actually shorter. And you also have to do this before... Careful, watch your fingers! You pull the legs down because the thighs actually block the door from opening up. Let's see. Take this off. Here. This off. This goes here. And now with that shorter nub there, we can stick this up here. Now, here, unfortunately, is one of the... This is perhaps the most annoying part of the whole toy. as far as transformation features and things like that. See that hole right there? Well, there's a tab on the inside that you have to push this way, and then you pull that thing out. Okay? Now the problem is, it very much likes to snap into this position. In fact, you heard it snap there, but it does not like to snap into that position, which makes putting the tail on a bit of a chore because it likes to reset itself, so you end up having to take it off and do the whole damn thing all over again, and you have to take the time to wiggle it on there. So the problem is, it doesn't snap into this position. It constantly wants to go back like that, and it actually will snap into position back there. So what I like to do, and this isn't in the instructions, is I like to fold these back down, and it'll actually prevent the tail from going down. And there you have, sorry about that, the Goju Rex. A number of years ago, when I was playing a free-to-play third-person shooter called X-Steel, when I would listen to conversations of the other players in Clan Okami, which I was honored to be a member of for a number of years, one of the phrases that I heard them throwing around was that this player, this item, this character, this location, this attack maneuver was beast, meaning it was cool, it was awesome, it was amazing, it was all kinds of goodness. And so despite the fact that this is the beast mode of this particular toy, the Goju Rex is very worthy of representing the great power of the Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger, which was the Super Sentai series that was featured in 1992, and for those of you playing at home, served as the basis for the first season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Some nice variety in the platelet thingies back here. There's some really nice detail on it here. You probably can't tell it, but obviously I shot photos for the text and picture review on CollectionDX.com, but there actually is some really nice subtle panel detailing all across this guy. Very, very nice. And not just on the dark blue, but even on the gray parts as well. Very nice. And yes, even on this thing as well. And you'll notice this recurring anchor theme, which is obviously the symbol that represents, that's not an anchor, that's a trident, obviously represents Gokai Silver. So, posability is as follows. Ratcheting every 45 degrees. Elbow articulation every 45 degrees. Because of transformation, you get ankles, knees, and a little bit in the hips. Again, because of transformation, you get some more in the head. You can actually tilt that up and down, although, yes, that is a bit of a problem. I'll get to that in a little bit here. And you can also open and close the mouth. And the one thing that just kind of drives me absolutely bonkers is that the fingers are individually articulated and made of PVC. So I just want you to know that I'm containing my absolute ecstatic enthusiasm as I objectively review the fact that this is the first Super Sentai toy in, well, ever to have individually articulated fingers. I'll comment on that later in my conclusions at the end of the video. And again, you can twirl that thing about. And that is it for the Goju Rex. To start the conversion to Goju Jin, we will remove the drill section again, push this down, and if you haven't already pulled these up, now is a good time to do so. Careful, watch your fingers. this off again. The tail, careful, watch your fingers, will become the right arm. And the Goju Rex's head, I don't know why it spins like that, will become the left arm. Attach the left arm, attach the right arm, and then finally, since we have the legs folded down, we can open this panel up again, and remember to keep this folded down like that, but we're going to flip this whole gray assembly up, flip this little panel here, 90 degrees up, put that back up, open these, and here you have the Goju Jin. The only difference between Goju Rex and Goju Jin as far as the legs are concerned is that they're just positioned differently, and that's it. So I'll just run over the legs real quickly again. And yeah, that's folded up so it actually gets a little darker, whatever. Nothing is moved around, it's just you reposition the legs just as I showed you, and that's it. Again, subtle detailing all across the whole toy, very nice. The head is made of ABS except for these little horns here, which are made of PVC. Something you wouldn't think about with a large action figure is that they painted the back of the head, which is nice. In Super Sentai that actually counts for something because they don't do it quite as often as we would like to think. And that's it. So you already know about the posability in the legs, arms, every 45 degrees for both of them. And whether this is a fluke or what, I don't know, but there's actually a little bit of give in the transformation joints. So you actually have the option to point the head back oh so slightly, and it'll hold position there. Unfortunately, you cannot tilt it forward, so what can you do? The left arm, I've already highlighted this thing a couple times, so I'm not even going to bother. And within the show, this is a special feature, but it can actually use the Goju Rex's head as a large claw. But the toy doesn't do that. And the head will turn because of the gimmick inside until you open it up completely. And the hand has a hole inside. And that's it. Oh yeah, one last thing. I kind of showed it here. Because of the tab under the chin, you can see it right there just above my thumb there. Because of that tab, you actually can tilt this inwards, the wrist inwards if you would like to. So that is also an option. But typically, you just leave it like that. Okay, that's it for posability. Now let's get on to the basic feature. I'm sorry, special feature. The drill arm actually has two special features built into it. Now, we already know about this. Okay, we know about that. I've shown it to you twice now. 3 times, actually. But what you can also do is this, and this is what is known as Trident mode, which looks like a blaster, but unfortunately it just plays up like a giant claw. See, I told you these were tridents down here. And I was mistaken earlier for calling these tridents as well, or anchors. These are actually supposed to be a spear here and here, because Gokai Silver's primary weapon is actually the Gokai spear. Anyways, yeah, this middle section here is completely made of PVC. Everything else is ABS. And even though the toy can do it, officially the Trident mode cannot spin. Who cares about officially when it comes to a toy? And then you can also do this, which is what is known as shield mode. Now, one thing I'm not certain about looking at the footage from the show itself is whether or not these are supposed to be like this or like this. See the difference between here and here? Obviously, the CGI replaces the physical stunt suit when it comes to shield mode, so it's difficult to tell because it's always moving. They don't show it like this. So, I mean, it can be done either way. But anyways, just like, I can't think of what it's called, mostly because I never saw it in the show, but in the series, what was it, Mobile Suit Gundam 00, there's an enemy grunt mobile suit that has a kind of a rotor system that creates a shield. When it spins really fast, then it creates a shield. And so this is Goju Jin's shield mode. If you hear that clicking sound, that's not the sound of it breaking, that's the sound of it doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. And so that is it for the Trident and Shield modes. You remember earlier how the Goju Rex's head seemed to turn all by itself on occasion? And by now that should be a familiar sound. Well, that's because the Goju Rex's head also has a wind-up motor built into it. Now this wind-up motor feature is only operable in Goju Jin mode. There's no trigger anywhere on here. The only way you can activate this is by turning this dial on the back. And when you turn the dial on the back, you get this. Had to remember for a moment there which way it goes. I will wind this up quickly. Forgive my large hands from getting in the way. It always sounds like it's going to break when it's fully wound up, but trust me, it's not. Or at least, that's what I've heard. But wait, there's more! It turns out that there's actually multiple positions. So the position for just turning this is clockwise the first position, yes? But you can also turn it clockwise 2 positions and you get Don't ask me why it is it puts priority on the Goju Rex's head as opposed to the drill, but it does. Oh, and by the way, you can also do this if you want to. Okay, so there's that. Put a little more energy into this. Wind-up motors on a Super Sentai toy. How very old school of Bandai and Plex, wouldn't you say? Now there is one more position. You can turn it counterclockwise 1 position and you will get both turning at the same time. So you actually have a number of options. You can turn the head first and then both, or you can turn it to the left 1 position and it'll just spin both at the same time. So turning it left once or turning it right twice will end up with the same effect. In my opinion, they should have, when you turned it to the right to the first position, it should have turned the drill, but then that would have completely made this little button pointless. They're not perfect in winding down, but no complaints there. Both motors will run for about 21 to 23 seconds. It depends on how tightly you wind it up. If you have this in shield mode, it will run, because it actually takes longer to get it up to speed and it takes longer for it to slow to a stop. Shield mode will actually take 28 seconds for it to completely wind itself out. Now the clicking sound that I've been mentioning is actually perfectly normal, and it does it with both of them. Okay? Now ordinarily, depending on which arm you grab, you will feel it tighten as you go, And then you will hear and feel a loud click. That lets you know that the motor is completely wound up. Now here's the interesting thing, though. It's still tightening up, but the motor is not being overstressed. I'm not feeling any additional pressure as I'm turning. If anything, I feel it release suddenly, just a little. It just releases a little bit. But then, when I turn it this direction, I'm not unwinding it right now. I'm not manually unwinding it. Believe it or not, the motor is still completely wound. Listen. Hear it? So, twisting it in the direction it normally would if you press the button is not going to unwind it unless you activate the motor. Same thing applies over here. Ooh, what's going on here? I'm being made a fool of. Oh, that's because I haven't wound this one up yet. Yeah, okay, whatever. Now, I'm assuming, this is a guess, that the motor does not just sit in this little section here. The motor actually takes up the entire arm. And so what happens is when I move this, oops, grab it from a different place, please, Ava, thank you. When I turn this, watch the head. See how it turns all by itself? It's because there's actually a shaft going through that little hole right there, which is actually partially covered up, which is good for them, so nothing will get inside. And my guess is the reason they did this is because kids will like to turn the drill and maybe it'll be completely wound up, or you know, you like to be able to get this into just a specific position without having to wind down the motor completely. If it didn't have these stop gaps in it, you'd be constantly fighting the motor for which position you wanted it to be in. So when I said that those loud clicks are normal, I meant it. And oh, by the way, you cannot activate the spinning thing here with these things open. And so that is it for the DX Goju Jin.
二度目だ。一気にやっつけるぞ。さっき教えてもらった大いなる力で。よっしゃ行くぜ。レンジャーキーセット。すごいです豪海王とゴージュ人が合体できるなんてね。あ、これならいけるよ。そうはいかないであります。遊びは終わりだ。了解。演劇のリルスピン。よっしゃ、とどめだ。了解。レクストリル。さらば出会いだ。暴れた数だけ強くなる。これからも暴れまくれ。
Reminds me of the size differences between the Daiju Jin and the Dragon Caesar, eh? You know, you kind of expect the secondary robo to be the same height, but, yeah, whatever. Can't really worry about that when it comes to DX-sized toys. And though it's not listed in the instructions, yeah, you can do that. And by the way, you turn the thing in back here, and you can do that because it uses the same pin system here inside the shoulders to activate the features. Well, if that's the case, then does that mean for Goju Gokaiger you can spin the arms? Well, as a matter of fact, you can, and conveniently, the arms are triggered first. So you turn this to the first and second positions. You get that. Or you can turn it counterclockwise left. You can turn it counterclockwise once, and you get this. So, yeah, nothing particularly special there for Goju Gokaiger. Oh, and just in case you're wondering, I don't know why it is they put the hole in the fist, but yes, it can actually hold one of the Gokai swords. And so that is it for Goju Gokaiger. Actually, I kind of like the proportions on this one, huh? It just works. It's not fat arms like the Gokaiger's usual arms. But whatever, it's a limb swap in the Anniversary series. Well, I suppose we should be fortunate this is the only one that happens.
「怒りを上げたなら自由の拳突き上げろ」